Good evening, everybody. Hope you are doing good. So welcome to this P4 question-based revision session, which is going to last over a period of 5 days. So I hope that we are actually my objective of conducting this question-based revision session is going to be what I'm actually going to try is I'm going to try to ensure that we are able to cover up maximum exam questions of the various topics so that we are able to cover up the maximum exam topics so that you have got a comprehensive revision. So what I'm actually going to do is that I'm going to actually start off with the recent attempt past papers, and with the recent attempt past paper I'm going to start off so that you people have an idea that how is the examiner expecting you people to attempt the questions, and what exactly are the examination style, because the examination style keeps on updating over a period of time. So ideally it's good to have a recent exam question. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to start off with the December 2017 exam question. Okay, so what I would want you people to do is I would want you people to open up the recent attempt exam question, which is December 2017 exam question, which is available on the ACCA's website. So what we are actually going to do is that we are going to do this December 2017 exam question, and we are going to go through the various questions which were examined in this specific scenario. Okay. Before I move forward, I would like to have one question to you people. That are you people expecting any specific? Are you people expecting any specific? Do you have any specific expectations from this session? Okay. And anyone else? Yeah. Anyone else? The exam techniques for different types of questions, scholars caps, interest rate risk, foreign currency chapter is extremely tricky. Would you appreciate if you could give a proper time to it? Okay. Anyone else? Okay. And you've got restructuring also. A few of the students are actually requiring restructuring also. And anyone else? Okay, somebody is saying forex. No, we are not going to do all the exam questions that we did in the March session. Okay, anyone else? Rabi Barafi. Proper techniques. So okay, I mean, more or less you people expect that we should actually be doing almost one question from every single area so that the techniques are clear to people. So what I'm actually going to do is that I'm going to try and go through the maximum question so that your expectations are covered up. Now let's actually start off. The first of all, what we are going to do is that we are going to start off with the December 2017 exam paper. So you do have the exam paper along with you people. So the first question that we are going to do is going to be the question number 4 of the December 2017 exam. Question number 4 of the December 2017 exam. Okay, if you go through this question number 4, December 2017 exam, so a lot of you people, your requirements would probably be answered through this specific question, because this question is about the interest rate risk management. So what I'm actually going to go through is that I'm going to do the interest rate risk management through this specific question. So what I would want you people to do is that first of all, you need to understand that how exactly do we need to handle a question. So when we actually talk about handling a question, the first thing that you need to do is that you need to read the top paragraph of the question. And once you are done with the top paragraph of the question, then you need to read the question requirements. So what we are going to do is that we are going to read the first paragraph of the question, and then we are going to read the question requirement. So it says, Vertical company, a company based in the Eurozone, has expanded very rapidly over the recent years. Has expanded very rapidly over the recent years by a combination of acquiring subsidiaries in foreign countries and setting up its own operations abroad. So it says setting up its own operations abroad. So what it has done is it has acquired foreign subsidiaries and it has set up its own operations abroad. The board has found it is increasingly difficult to monitor its activities, and vertical support function, including its treasury function, have struggled to cope up with the recently increased workload. Now, Vertical's board has decided to restructure the company on a regional basis with regional boards and appropriate functions. The manager in some of the large countries which Vertical operates are unhappy with the reorganization on a regional basis and believe that operations in their country should be given a large amount of autonomy and supported by internal functions organized on a national basis. So now what exactly do they want? So they have actually given a brief background of the entity. That the brief background of the entity is that the Vertical company, which is based in Eurozone, they've expanded rapidly. They've actually acquired subsidiaries in the foreign countries. They have set up their operations abroad. That's what they have done. So what we actually need to do is that we need to actually have a requirement to this question is that you need to requirement is recommend a hedging strategy for D 27 million investment based on the hedging choices which treasury staff are considering if interest rate increase by 1.1% or decrease by 0.6%. So what is it suggesting us? It is suggesting us that we need to recommend a hedging strategy for the D 27 million investment based on the hedging choices which treasury staff are considering if the interest rate increase by 1.1% or decrease by 0.6%. Now it says support your answer with appropriate calculations and discussion. So what I would want you people to do is that to go through the questions, and then we are actually going to start discussing. So go through a question and then we'll start discussing. Let's actually start off discussing this question. So if I start discussing this question, let's talk. First of all, the question actually tells us that this company, Vertical company, is it tells us that assume that it is now. Now, whenever you are dealing with a foreign exchange question, or whenever you are dealing with the interest rate risk management question, the important thing is that you need to establish the few facts. And what exactly are the few facts? It says assume that it is now 1st of October 2017. So basically, now is a date which is 1st October 2017. Now, what does it say? It says assume that now is 1st October 2017. The central treasury function has just received information about a future transaction by a newly acquired subsidiary in Urea, where the local currency is the dinar. So it says the subsidiary expects to receive D27 million on 31st January 2018. So now is 1st October 2017, and on 31st January 2018, what is actually expecting, the subsidiary is expecting a receipt. And what is it expecting? It is expecting a receipt of 27 million. So when it comes to the treasury management question, what is an important thing is that what is going to be the duration from now. So we are standing on the 1st of October 2017. So it says October, November, December, and then January. So that is actually 4 months from now. Now, it says that it wants this money to be invested locally in Urea, most probably for a period of 5 months until 30th June 2018. So what is the company expecting to do? It is expecting to receive the money in 4 months' time, and it is going to expect that it is going to invest this money up till 30th June 2018, which is actually going to be for a period of 5 months. So the company is going to invest it for a period of 5 months. Now what next is there? It says Vertigo's treasury team is aware that economic conditions in Urea are certainly uncertain. Now, the central bank base rate in Urea is currently 4.2%. Now, when it says the base rate, we do know the LIBOR and we do know the KIBORs and etc. etc. So LIBOR, KIBOR, etc. etc. Whatever the interbank rate. So when it says the base rate of the central bank, so its base rate is generally equivalent to KIBOR or LIBOR. So that is actually going to be 4.2%. Now, and the treasury team believes that it can invest funds in Urea at the central bank base rate less 30 basis point. We know that 1 basis point, 1% is equivalent to 100 basis point. So 1% is equivalent to 100 basis point, and it says that what you could do is that you could invest at base rate less 30 basis points. That means less 0.3%. Now what next? However, the Treasury staff have seen predictions that the central bank's base rate could increase up to 1.1 or fall up to 0.6% between now and 1st January 2018. So basically what does it say? It says that the central bank is expecting, because up from now up till 31st January 2018, they are expecting the interest rates are either going to go up by 1.1% or they are either going to go down by 0.6%. So that is what their expectation is. Now see, next. The Treasury's staff is normally hedge interest rate exposure by using whichever of the following product is most appropriate: FRAs, interest rate futures, options, and interest rate futures. Now what it says? It says Treasury function guidelines emphasize the importance of mitigating the impact of adverse movement in interest rates. However, they also allow staff to take into consideration upside risk associated with interest rate exposure when deciding which instrument to use. Now, a local bank in Urea, which Vertical has not dealt, has offered the following FRA. So usually what happens is when it comes to the forward rate agreement, in the forward rate agreement, you usually contract with the bank and the bank offers you a rate. Now it says in this specific question, a bank has offered a rate of FRA for 4-9 as 5.02, 5-10 as 5.10%. Now, what I'm actually going to discuss is how exactly do we deal with the FRAs. So if I talk about dealing with the FRA, so you need to understand one thing, that how is the FRA quoted and what does FRA actually indicates. Now when the examiner says 4-9 FRA, so 4-9 FRA, it actually means to say that you are going to do a transaction. You are either going to invest or you are either going to borrow. You are either going to invest or borrow in 4 months from now. This is now, and you're going to do a transaction in 4 months from now. and you're going to return the money. I mean, whatever, you are either going to return the money or you are either going to withdraw the funds. You're going to return the money or you're going to withdraw the funds 9 months from now. So when it says 4-9, it actually means to say that you're going to do the first transaction 4 months from now and you're going to do the next transaction 9 months from now. So what is actually going to happen is that if we actually see this example, the company wants to actually uh, invest in 4 months and wants to take out the money uh, 5 months after the investment. So it's actually 4 months from now. It's actually 9 months from now. So the relevant FRA in the above scenario is going to be 4-9. The relevant scenario in the above scenario is going to be 4-9. When we say 5-10, it says 5 months from now and 10 months from now. So what we have here is we are actually standing on 1st of October. So we've got October, November, December, and January, the 4 months. So it's actually going to be 4 months, October, November, December, and January. So it's going to be 4 months, and then Feb, March, April, May, June. Now, let's move forward. So the relevant FRA in the given scenario is going to be 4-9, 5.02%. Now what it says is that the Treasury team has also obtained the following information about exchange traded futures and options. So we have got 3-month D futures. We have got options on 3 months. Now it says it can be assumed that the futures and the options contract are settled at the end of each month. So they're settled at the end of each month. Basis can be assumed to diminish to zero at constant rate based on monthly intervals. It also can be assumed there's no basis risk and there's no margin requirements. Now what I'm actually going to do is that I'm going to discuss that what exactly do we mean by this basis risk, no basis risk, and no margin requirement. But right now what you actually need to do is you need to actually see that how things go. Now see, so the question requirement is what we need to do is that we need to actually recommend a hedging strategy for $27 million investment based on the hedging choices which Treasury staff are considering if the interest rate increased by 1.1 or decreased by 0.6%. It says support your answer with appropriate calculation and discussion. Now, here the students actually are very good at calculations, but the only area where the students actually lack is the discussion. When they are unable to discuss, that's an area where they actually have an issue. So it says that with appropriate calculations and discussions, so we do know how to calculate, but the only reason that actually leads to the failure of many students is actually the discussion. The students don't know how to discuss. So we are going to actually talk about that, how exactly is going to be the discussion and how exactly is going to be the calculation. Now see, let's actually have a discussion about it. So if in the given scenario we talk about the FRA, the forward rate agreement, so how exactly are we going to deal with the FRA? Now let's talk. So when it comes to dealing with the FRA, so for the FRA what you need to do is that you need to perform the calculations for two scenarios. Now what is going to be the calculation for two scenarios? I'm going to perform the calculation for scenario 1. Now what is that scenario 1? Scenario 1 is actually that the base rate is up by 1.1%. Now let's see. If the base rate is up by 1.1%, so what is actually going to happen is, remember one thing, you can invest at what? You can invest at base rate less 0.3%. You can invest at base rate less 0.3%. Now what you need to actually understand is when it comes to the interest rate risk management, we are standing now and we plan to invest on 31st January 2018. Now is 1st October 2017, and we will withdraw the funds on 30th June 2018. Now one thing what you actually need to understand is now is 1st October 2017. You are going to invest on 31st January 2018 and you are going to withdraw the funds on 30th June 2018. So basically the risk that you are facing is here. This is where the risk is being faced. You're facing a risk between now and the date when you are actually going to deposit the funds, when you are actually going to invest the funds. Because what happens is that the base rate right now is what, 4.2%? How much is it? 4.2% is the base rate right now. So base rate right now is 4.2%. So the risk that we are actually facing is the base rate may not actually go to 3% or 3.5%. This is what the risk we are facing. Okay, Intisar, are you able to see the screen now? I mean, I hope everybody is able to see the screen because there is a student actually complaining about it. So I just need to confirm if you're able to see the screen. Okay, sure. Thank you. I've got an answer. Yes, you people can see. Thank you very much. Now see, so right now the base rate is 4.2%, and the risk is that the date that we are actually going to invest, that 31st January 2018. So the risk that we are facing is that the interest rate might move adversely up till 31st January 2018. So the period that we need to hedge, the period that we need to cover is this period. The period that we need to hedge, the period that we need to cover is this specific period. Now, so whatever the consequences are going to be, you will bear the consequences for the next 5 months. You will bear the consequences for the next 5 months, because if you actually invest at a higher rate, you will actually get the benefit for the next 5 months. If you invest at a lower rate, you would actually lose in the next 5 months. So that's what it is going to happen, that the consequences are going to be borne over the next 5 months. So let's talk. So if you are talking about FRA, you need to understand that the risk is only for this specific period. The risk is not for any other period. The risk is only for this period. Now see, so if we see, assume that the base rate increases by 1.1%. If the base rate increases by 1.1%, what is actually going to happen? If the base rate increases by 1.1%, what is going to happen is you're going to say that investment is basically 27 million multiplied by 4.2% plus 1.1% minus 0.3% multiplied by 5 upon 12. How much is it? Okay, you don't have the money right now. You will have the money after 4 months. So you don't have the money right now that you can invest. Okay, can somebody please give the answer? 27 million multiplied by 4.2%, which is the base rate, plus 1.1% the increase, minus 0.3% the deduction that you actually have to bear. Okay, 562 500. So this is actually 562 500. Now what next? Okay, Tasnua Alam, your question is why 5 by 12, why not 4 by 12? You see, what would happen is, how does the FRA work? FRA actually works this way, that you would actually see that, assume that no FRA, you would invest in a bank. The bank would actually pay you 27 million. Bank would actually pay you interest on this 27 million for a period of 5 months. Why? Because we have actually deposited for a period of 5 months. Sayyid Zainul Abidin, the question says that you can invest at base rate minus 0.3%. So the base rate, which was originally 4.2%, it has increased by 1.1% and it has become 5.3%. But you can't invest at 5.3. You can invest at 5.3 minus 0.3. You can only invest at 5%. Okay, so you've deposited the money. So basically, how does FRA operate? FRA operates this way, that what we do is that we actually operate in a normal manner. We would go on and we would deposit into the bank that we had originally planned to invest in. So we deposited into that bank, and that bank would actually pay us 562 500 interest. Now what would happen is, the bank with whom we actually entered into FRA, so we would have to perform the settlement with that bank under the FRA. Now how is that settlement going to be? Remember one thing, that the FRA is always on the base rate of the LIBOR or the KIBOR. FRA is not actually upon the overall return that you get. FRA is only upon the base rate that you have. So now if I talk about the settlement under FRA, now let's talk about it. The settlement under FRA is going to be 27 million minus multiply by. Now, the FRA that we have obtained, the FRA actually has a rate of 5.02%. And what have we been able to achieve? We've been able to achieve 5.3%. So you see what would happen is, we have been able to achieve a better interest rate of 5.3%. This is the rate we have achieved. So this is the base rate that we have achieved. And the FRA agreement required us to have a rate of 5.02%. So that means we have actually ended up earning a 0.828% extra. So what is actually going to happen is, the bank with whom we have entered into this FRA, we will have to return the money back to that bank. We'll have to return the money back to that bank. So how much money would we have to return to that bank? It's going to be 0.28%. Multiply by 5 divided by 12. That's what you would have to return to that bank. So can somebody please confirm that how much is that amount going to be? $31,500. Okay. So how much is the net interest received? Okay, 531,000. So it is actually 531,000. Now, for those of you who have not been able to get complete hold of these calculations, let me actually give a quick explanation. You see what happened is, when it comes to the FRA, how do we actually go about in the FRA? The way we operate in the FRA is that, what we figure out is that we would actually go on and invest normally in a bank. So what we did is, we invested normally in a bank. And when we invested normally in a bank, what actually happened was, 27 million was invested into the bank at a base rate of 5.3% minus 0.3%. So we ended, for a period of 5 months, we ended up getting a return of 562,500. Now what happened is, the bank with whom we had entered into FRA, that bank actually told us that, look, we agreed to an FRA of 5.02%. That means we agreed that you will actually be achieving a base rate of 5.02%. But now, since you have deposited into the bank and you have actually received 5.3%, so what you need to do is that you need to return this 0.28% back to us. So we need to actually return this money back to them. So when we are actually going to return this money back to them, so what would happen is, 0.28% into 27 million into 5.12 gives you 31,500. So you end up actually achieving a net interest of 531,000. Now, what I need to do is that I need to relate this thing to something. Now, this 531,000 is the interest that we have achieved on a 27 million of investment for a period of 5 months. If I need to annualize this rate, I'm going to say multiply by 12 divided by 5. So how much is it actually going to be? It is going to be 0.531 divided by 27 into 12 divided by 5. Can somebody? 4.72%. Now, if I actually confirm that how have we got this 4.72%, so we had an FRA of 5.2%, 5.02%, you deduct 0.3% from it, so you end up getting 4.72%. So basically what happens is, when it comes to the FRA, okay, I've got few questions. Number one, Mazhar Abbas, you are asking which question we are attempting. So we are attempting December 2017. We are attempting December 2017 question number. It is actually question number 4 of December 2017, number 1. Mansoor Khan is asking, why are we not deducting the basis points from the rate we achieved? You see, the rate that we have achieved, just try to understand this. See, this is actually the investment that you have actually done with the bank. 27 million invested at the base rate of 5.3%. minus the credit spread of 0.3%. So this is invested at 5% into 5 divided by 12. So we end up getting 562,500. And the next thing is that what actually happens is when we actually talk about the settlement under the FRA. So the FRA settlement ignores the credit spread. FRA settlement is always on the basis of the base rate of the LIBOR. So the base rate that we have agreed is 5.02%. The rate that we have achieved is 5.3%. So resultingly, we have been able to earn an extra 0.28%. So what we need to do is that we need to return this money back to the bank with whom we have actually entered into the FRA. So the bank with whom we have actually entered into the FRA, we need to return them 0.28%. When we actually return them 0.28% for a period of 5 months on a 27 million, this leads to 531,000. Now when it is 531,000, so I've actually reconciled that this 531,000 equates to 4.72%. And we originally did know that we are going to able to achieve a rate of 4.72%. How? We had a 5.02% of the FRA less our credit spread of 0.3. So we originally knew that we are going to achieve a rate of 4.72. I hope that this is clear now. Okay, so now what I would actually, so we actually lock ourselves in a rate with the bank. Okay, somebody, Zainab Yaqub, is saying that, so we actually lock ourselves in a rate with the bank. Any increase will be given to bank and any decrease will be receiving. Yes, exactly. Zainab, this is an absolutely correct understanding. Now, what you need to do is that you need to now perform the similar calculation on the assumption. You need to perform the similar calculation on the assumption that the base rate decreases by 0.6%. So because the question actually requires you to perform two calculations, one of them is base rate increases, the other one of them is the base rate decreases. So now base rate decreases by 0.6% and you need to perform the calculation. The question is not stuck. I've actually given you an assignment to perform the calculation that if the base rate decreases by 0.6%, what is going to be the impact on the FRA calculations? Okay, now, so I'd actually ask you people to perform the calculations on the assumption that the base rate decreased by 0.6%. Now, let's see. If the base rate decreased by 0.6%, that means the base rate now is 4.2% minus 0.6%. So the base rate is going to be 3.6%. So what would actually going to happen is you're going to invest into the bank 27 million multiplied by 3.6% minus 0.3% into 5 upon 12. How much is it? 371250. Okay. And the next thing that we actually need to do is that settlement under FRA. Now, see, settlement under FRA is going to be, when we talk about the settlement under FRA, so what is exactly going to happen? The base rate that we have actually been able to achieve is 3.6%, and the base rate that we actually agreed was 5.02%. So the difference between the base rate is 3.6 minus 5.02 is actually 1.42%. So what would actually happen is the settlement that you would receive under the FRA is going to be 1.42%. Now, how is it going to be? 27 million multiplied by 1.42% multiplied by 5 upon 12. So how much does it turn out to be? So what are you going to get? 159,750. So the resultingly what is going to be? It is going to end up at 531,000. So it is going to end up at 531,000. Is it how it is? Okay, great. So I hope you people got how the FRA operates. And it was actually the investor's FRA. It was actually the investor's FRA. Even if it would have been a borrower's FRA, it would have been done in the same manner. The only difference there is going to be you would have actually paid the interest instead of receiving the interest. Okay. So we are done with FRA. I'm actually going to explain one small concept of the FRA. Over here in this scenario, they had mentioned 4.9, 5.02%. Now, it could have been the case that they might have actually mentioned 5.02% to 5.12%. Now, in case if the examiner would have given the FRA this way, 5.02% to 5.12%. So one thing that you actually need to understand is that uh, the applicable rate, the rate that would have been applicable to you as an entity would have been that had you been a lender, so this is the rate that would have been applicable to you. And if you would have been a borrower, then this is the rate that would have been applicable to you. Because a borrower always ends up in a loss and the lender also ends up in a loss, because according to the risk management hedging, it's actually the bank who's there to earn. It's not us who are there to earn. So it's actually the bank who's there to earn. Okay. Now let's actually move forward. Let's discuss further. Now, if I discuss further, so the question's requirement was actually the question requested us that we need to actually recommend a hedging strategy based on the hedging choices. So what we have done up till now is we have only talked about the forward rate agreement. We are now going to talk about the interest rate futures, that how do the interest rate futures actually operate. So let's have a discussion about the interest rate futures. Now, if I talk about the interest rate futures, so first of all, I'm actually going to the interest rate futures. I'm actually going to write down a few basic things about the futures and then I'm going to discuss. Okay. There's a student who is asking that you mean to say that the first rate represents the lender in this case. So my answer to this is no, it's not going to be the case. The lower rate is going to be the lender's rate, and the higher rate is going to be the borrower's rate. Okay, now let's talk about the interest rate futures. That what exactly are the interest rate futures? Now, if I talk about the interest rate futures, so what I'm actually going to do is that I'm just going to explain that what exactly interest rate futures are. You need to understand one thing, that whenever we talk about the futures, so the futures contract are actually derivative contract. And whenever we talk about the derivative, a derivative generally has got few characteristics. And what are those few characteristics? The few characteristics, its value changes with the underlying item. So its value changes with the underlying item. Like if I talk about the interest rate future, the value of this interest rate future is going to keep on changing with the value, with the interest rates. The market interest rate would keep on fluctuating, and the value of the interest rate would the value of the interest rate future would also keep on fluctuating. So that's actually one thing. So its value changes with the value of underlying item. That's number one. Now number two, when we talk about it, so the number two thing is basically whenever the futures contract are there. Zohaib Ali is asking what is IRG. IRG is interest rate guarantee. Interest rate guarantee is the other name for interest rate options. Okay. So the next thing is actually that the interest rate futures are just like paper trading. Now, what do we mean by paper trading? Paper trading means you don't physically exchange interest with the exchange. You don't physically exchange the interest payment with the exchange. You don't physically borrow. You don't actually borrow from the exchange. It's just a net settlement thing that happens. Now, what is this net settlement? I would actually explain to people what the net settlement actually means. Now, see, if I talk about the interest rate futures, I need to actually explain to people that an interest rate future is a contract which has a value, and the value of an interest rate future contract is actually determined as 100 minus R. The value of interest rate future is determined as 100 minus R. Now, what exactly do you mean by 100 minus R? So let's actually discuss. When we say 100 minus R, it's actually R is actually the interest rate. R is the interest rate. So what happens is 100 minus R actually means that in case if the market interest rate is 10%, so if the market interest rate is 10%, the interest rate future would have a value of 90. If the market interest rate is 12%, the interest rate future would have a value of 88. So basically, the value of the interest rate future is inversely proportional to the market interest rate. If the interest rates, if the market interest rate increases, the value of the interest rate future, the value of the interest rate future actually decreases. Similarly, if the interest rate decreases, the value of the interest rate future increases. So that's how it is. So it's actually inverse proportional. It's inversely related. Now, how to set up a futures hedge? How to set up a futures hedge? So I'm actually going to explain to you people how to set up a futures hedge. Okay, so I've written down few steps. With respect to setting up the interest rate futures. Let's have a discussion about the setting up of the interest rate future. The first thing is you need to identify which contracts. Now, what do you mean by which contracts? I'm going to explain. The second thing is you need to determine the number of contracts. Third is the hedge strategy, which could either be buy now, sell later, or which could be sell now, buy later. And lastly, on the transaction date, you have to do the net settlement. Now, how exactly is going to be this net settlement done? Let's talk about it. Now, if we talk about it, which contracts? So, which contracts is actually you need to obtain the contracts whose maturity is immediately after. Whose maturity is immediately after the borrowing or lending date. So, the date on which you are going to borrow the funds or the date on which you are going to lend the funds, the contract which you need to actually choose is going to be the one whose maturity is immediately after the borrowing or the lending date. So a contract whose maturity is immediately after the borrowing or the lending date is the contract that you actually need to choose. Now what next? That means we are actually right now standing on we are standing on the, what was the date today? We're standing on 1st of October. We are standing on 1st of October 2017. And we need to invest on 31st January 2018. So the risk that we are facing is for this period only. The risk that we are facing is for this period only. So if the risk that we are facing is for this period only, now let's actually talk about it. So what exactly are we going to do? How exactly are we going to operate? We're going to operate this way, that we need to choose for the contract whose maturity is immediately after 31st January, because our risk is going to cease on 31st Jan. We are not going to be facing any further risk after 31st Jan. So we need to establish that what is going to be the contract immediately after 31st Jan. So if I actually go through the data that is available to us, we've got a contract of December 17, we've got a contract of March 18 and June 18. The examiner says in the question that the contracts expire on the last day of the month. So if the contracts expire on the last day of the month, that means it expires on 31st of March. So my relevant contract is going to be March 2018. So which contracts am I going to choose? I am going to choose the contract of March 2018. The contract that I need to choose is March 2018. That's number one. So March 18 is the contract that we are actually going to choose. Now, what next? So the next requirement of the interest rate futures is actually you need to establish the number of contracts. Now, how exactly are we going to establish the number of contracts? So in order to establish the number of contracts, what you are actually going to do is that you would say that the borrowing or lending amount divided by contract size, the borrowing or lending amount divided by the contract size, multiply by the borrowing or lending period divided by contract maturity. Now, if you look at this question, so it says the prices, the 3 month, it says 3 month D futures. It says 3 month D futures. Now, what is this 3 month D futures? The 3 month D futures actually means that these are the contracts which are going to have a maturity of 3 months. It's a 3 month contract. Now, let's see. So if it's a 3 month contract, what exactly is the amount? Amount is D 27 million divided by the contract size. What is the contract size? D 500,000. The contract size is D 0.5 million, which is the 500,000 multiplied by the period. We are actually going to be investing for a period of 5 months, and every contract has a maturity of 3 months. So how much is going to be the period for which we would actually be investing? The number of contracts is going to be what? Okay, so it's actually going to be 90 contracts. So the 90 contracts is the answer. So that means we are going to have 90 contracts. So now you get it. Number one is that which contract? So we are going to choose the contract whose maturity is immediately after the borrowing or lending date. The second thing is that we need to choose the 90 contracts. Now, third thing is, which is very important, I'm going to explain the concept, and what you could do is that you could actually take up the concept and then you can remember these things. Now, hedge strategy. So we have actually got two hedge strategy. And what are those two hedge strategies? One of them is buy now, sell later, and the other one of them is sell now, buy later. Now, what exactly is the difference between these two hedge strategies? So let's have a discussion about these two hedge strategy. What is buy now, sell later, and what is sell now, buy later? Okay, it's a contract maturity. Under the period is actually contract maturity. The Biba Rafiq, it's contract maturity. So now hedge strategy, we can either have a buy now or we can either have a sell later. Now, how would we establish that whether we have a buy now or sell later? So let's just try to understand one thing. I told you that the interest rate futures are, you actually try to make a gain on those futures. You try to make a gain on those futures. It's just a paper trading. You buy a paper, you sell a paper, and you try to make a gain on that paper. So now, how exactly is it going to happen? Now see, if I am a borrower, what is my risk? My risk is right now the interest rates are 10% and I'm expecting the interest rates are going to go up to 12%. So assume that if I'm a borrower, so being a borrower, my risk is that currently the interest rates are 10% and then they are going to be 12%. So if the interest rates are 12%, 10%, the interest rate future is 90. if the if the interest rates are 12%, the interest rate futures is going to be valued at 88. Now, you see, I told you people that we buy or sell the future contract. We buy or sell the future contract and we get a gain. So if we buy or sell the future contract, so what we try to do is that we try to buy at a lower rate and we try to sell at a higher rate. So if we are going to do it this way, so what is going to happen? We know that based on the risk that we are facing, we know that the interest rate future, we know that the current interest rate is 10%. Based on the rates are expected to increase. That's why we are hedging. Had we been expecting that the rates are only going to decline and decline, we would have never hedged. So if you are a borrower, then what you are going to do is that you are going to say that this is 90 and this is going to be 80. So it is actually expensive right now, sell it now. It is going to be cheaper at a later date, you're going to buy it later. So when it comes to a borrower, it's always going to be a fixed strategy under the interest rate feature. I'm repeating, it's only going to be under the interest rate feature, which is sell now, buy later. Okay. Can you please people confirm if this is okay? Okay. Perfect. And yes, can you explain again? Okay, I'm gonna explain it again. Now, you see, basically you need to understand that what we do is that we actually buy and sell the interest rate futures. We try to make a gain on the buy and sell of the papers. We try to make a gain by buying and by selling the paper. Now, if we try to make a gain by selling and by buying the paper, so how exactly are we going to assume that right now the market interest rate is 10%? If the market interest rate is 10%, so the interest rate future would have a price of 90. Now, if the market interest rate, as a borrower, what is your risk? Your risk is you expect the interest rates to go up. Now, if your risk is that the interest rates are going to go up, that means we are expecting that these interest rates are going to become 12%, 13%, 14%, 15% in a short period of time. So now, if they are going to become this specific, if the interest rates are going to increase, then what is going to happen? What is going to happen is that the interest rate future price is going to be 88. So right now the price is 90 and the price would become 88. So I'm actually going to make a gain by buying or selling a paper. So what should I do? So what I'm actually going to do, I know that the paper is of a higher value right now and its value is going to decrease at a later date. So I'm actually going to sell it now and I'm going to buy it at a later date. You get it now? Sell now, buy later is the strategy for uh, okay, thank you. Now let's move forward. If I move forward, so I'm actually now going to discuss about the lender. So when we talk about a lender, what exactly is going to happen in the case of a lender? In the case of a lender, what happens is the lender is actually facing a risk that the interest rate would decrease. So right now, assume that the interest rates are 10%. The lender is expecting that at a later date they would become 7%. So if the interest rates are 10%, that is 90. If they become 7%, that is going to become 93. So what is he going to do? He knows that it is actually cheaper to buy now and it is expensive to sell later. So he is going to buy now and he is going to sell later. So you get it. Are you people okay with this strategy? Okay, now next. So in this scenario, our overall strategy is going to be our hedge strategy. Since we are a lender, our strategy is going to be buy now, sell later. So we're going to sum up the creation or the construction of the future hedge by saying that on 1st of October 2017, what exactly are you going to do? You are going to buy 90 March 2018 contracts now and sell later. This sums up the overall hedge construction for this question. Okay, we can have a 5-minute break for prayers and then we can resume immediately. Yes, okay, welcome back. Uh, um, okay, I've got few questions, so I'm gonna answer those questions first, and then I'm gonna move up. Please, there is a WhatsApp group set up. Somebody is asking if there is a WhatsApp group. The answer is we will set it up. Don't worry. Somebody is asking, can we have note files after session? Yes, you can have them. Okay, we are resuming it now. Let's talk. So basically what happens is that we have actually devised a strategy in this scenario, which is buy 90 March 2018 contracts now and sell later. Buy 90 March 2018 contracts now and sell later. Now let's move forward. So what exactly is going to happen? On 1st October 2017, we have actually bought the 90 contracts, and we have actually just stayed calm because on 1st October, we set up the hedge. We set up the hedge. The hedge is being set up now. And now the hedge is being set up. So what is actually going to happen? On 31st January 2018, we are going to have a receipt of fund, and we are going to invest. You see, the question could have been based on the foreign currency also, but this question is not a foreign currency related question. This question is actually based on the interest rate risk. So it says that the receipt of funds are going to be invested, and the risk that we are facing is that we might not be able to get the desired interest rate. So if we are not going to get the desired interest rate, that's what the risk. So now we are actually going to set up the hedge now, and we are going to wait for this 4 months time period. And on this 31st January 2018, we are actually going to invest the funds. We are going to actually invest the funds. So when we are actually going to invest the funds, so now we are not facing the risk anymore. The risk is going to end. We are only facing a risk in this time period. We are only facing a risk in this time period. The risk that we are facing is only in this time period. Okay. So what we are going to do is that we are going to set up the futures hedge now, and we are actually going to close the hedge here because after this date, 31st January 2018, we are not facing any risk. So the only risk that we are facing is up till 31st January 2018. Now let's talk about it. So if we actually talk about it, that how exactly is this whole going to function? So on 31st January 2018, what is actually going to happen is that you are actually going to invest. You are actually going to invest the funds, and the investment is going to be either going to be at base rate plus 1.1% minus 0.3%, or base rate minus 0.6% minus 0.3%. That means 4.2% plus 1.1% minus 0.3%, or 4.2% minus 0.6% minus 0.3%. So the investment is either going to be at a rate of 5%, or it is either going to be at a rate of 3.3%. Now, what we actually need to do is that you need to understand one thing. On 1st October, we actually bought the futures. And on 31st January 2018, we are actually going to sell the futures. So we bought the futures on 1st January, 1st October, and we are going to sell the futures on 31st January 2018. So now you need to actually understand that how exactly are we going to calculate the gains and losses and etc. etc. So let me actually take you people into two scenarios. Now what are actually going to be those scenarios? So basically what is going to happen is that base rate is either going to be 4.2% plus 1.1%, which is going to be 5.3%, or the base rate is either going to be 4.2% minus 0.6%, which is either going to be 3.6%. So this is what the base rate is going to be. So what we are actually going to do is that we are going to say interest received. So interest received is going to be 27 million into 5 upon 12 multiplied by this base rate minus 0.3%. So can you please share that how much is it actually going to be? We did perform this calculation in the FRA. So I think this was actually 561 250. Was that it is? And this is 371 250. Is that how it is? Or was it some other figure? Or was it some other figure? Okay, 560 to 500. And the other one of them is? And the other one of them is? 370 and 250. Okay. Now, so basically what would happen is you would receive the interest as 560 to 500 and then 371 250 depending upon how the base rate has actually moved. And then what you would do is that you would say gain or loss on interest rate future. The next thing is going to be gain or loss on interest rate future. Now, the question mark is how exactly are we going to get a gain or loss on the interest rate future? The very big important question mark is how exactly are we going to get the interest rate future? Okay, now, so how exactly are we going to calculate the gain or loss on interest rate future? So you need to understand you had a strategy of buy now. So you bought the interest rate future already. Now you need to sell them. So basically remember one thing. Basically when we are going to say gain or loss on interest rate future, so how exactly are we going to calculate? The base rate is either going to be 5.3%, either going to be 3.6%. Now, we have already bought the interest rate future. We have already bought the interest rate future. What is the rate at which we have bought the interest rate future? 94.78. 94.78. 94.78. So you've bought the interest rate future at 94.78. Now what you need to do is that you need to sell the interest rate future. Now the question mark is what is going to be the price at which this interest rate future is going to be sold? What is going to be the price at which this interest rate future is going to be sold? So the price at which this interest rate future is going to be sold is going to be the spot rate, or the IRF price is going to be the IRF price. The price at which this interest rate future is going to be sold is going to be the IRF price. Is going to be the IRF price on 31st January 2018. So I'm actually holding my explanation right now, and I want you people to answer me that have you actually got what is going on? Have you got what is going on? Are you able to understand what is actually going on? Okay. I did not calculate 94.78. 94.78 is the price at which we actually did buy the future. Yes, we need to actually calculate the price at which we are going to sell the future. Okay, now let's see. So basically the gain or loss on interest rate future, how exactly is it going to be calculated? So we have already bought the interest rate future. Okay, now see. So what we actually need to do is that we now need to calculate the gain or loss on the interest rate future. Now, how exactly are we going to calculate the gain or loss on interest rate future? Let's see. So you need to actually have the interest rate future price on 31st January 2018. How will you get this price? How will you get this price on 31st January 2018? We need to see. There is actually a concept called basis. Now, what exactly is this basis? Basis is the difference between the price of the interest rate future and the spot rate. Basis is the difference between the price of the interest rate future and the spot rate. So first of all, what we do is that we calculate the basis now, which is 1st October 2017, the transaction date. So the 1st October 2017, which is actually the date on which we have entered into a hedging relationship. So we have got an IRF, which is 94.78. The spot rate is 100 minus 4.2. So we have got the spot rate as 95.60. So if we actually compare this 95.60 and 94.78, so what exactly is going to be the difference? Now this is 1.18. Now what is it? This is called basis. Now what is this basis? 95.8. Okay. So it is actually going to be 1.38. Is that how it is? What's the difference? 1.02. Okay, now see. So what is it? So we have actually got the interest rate future originally was 94.78 and the spot rate was 4.2. If we express the spot rate in terms of the interest rate future, then it becomes 95.8. So the difference between the spot rate and the interest rate future is called the basis. Now, what is this basis indicating? This basis is indicating that on 1st October 2017, the market rate is actually 95.8, and the on 31st March 2018, the interest rate future price is 94.78. This is actually indicating that on 31st March 2018, the spot rate would also become 94.78. Now, what exactly do we mean by this basis and all? This interest rate future, which price is actually 94.78, it is indicating that on 31st March 2018, the market is expecting the spot rate to become 94.78. So the interest rate future of 94.78 is indicating that the market is expecting that on 31st March 2018, the price of the spot rate is going to be 94.78. So this difference of 1.02, slowly and gradually this difference would decrease. Slowly and gradually this difference would decrease. Now, if this difference is going to decrease, so what is actually going to happen is slowly and gradually this spot rate would keep on reaching this level. Now see, so we calculated the basis on 1st October 2017. Now what we need to do is that we need to calculate the remaining basis on 31st January 2018. How would we calculate the remaining basis? So the difference was 1.2 and it is expected to become 0 on 31st March 18. So if I say that how much is the time period between 1st October 17 and 31st March 18? So we've got October, we've got November, we've got December. And we've got January, February, March, and March. So it makes it 6 months. So we've got 6 months time that this 1.2 is going to this 1.02 difference is going to be spreaded over the 6 months period. Okay, but if I say that on 31st January 2018, what is actually going to be happening? We are going to be standing here at 31st January 2018. So the difference of 2 months would prevail. So the remaining basis is going to be 1.02 into 2 upon 6, 1.02 into 2 divided by 6. So this is actually going to be 0.34. How much is it going to be? 0.34%. Okay. Please reconfirm if you are able to get this, then I can actually move forward. Okay, how did the 2 come? You see, we are calculating the remaining basis on 31st January 2017, 31st January 2018. So if you compare the time period between 31st January 2018 and 31st March 2018, so this gives you 31st March 2018, 31st January 2018, you've got February 2018, you've got March 2018, you've got 2 months. Okay. Okay, now I remember. I'll explain it again. You see, we are standing here on 1st October 2017, and we are saying that on 1st October 2017 we have got 4.2 as an interest rate, which equates to 95.8. And today on 1st October 2017, we know that the 31st March 18 future it's trading at 94.78. So the difference between these two is 1.02. Now, what is this difference of 1.02 indicating? This difference of 1.02 is indicating that the market is expecting that the interest rates would move in such a manner that on 31st March the spot rate would be 94.78. Okay. How did we get 6 months? Today is actually 1st October. So you've got October, you've got November, you've got December, of October, November, December, January, February, and March. So you've got October, November, December, January, February, March. So that means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It actually is 6 months away. Okay, now let's move forward. So the remaining basis is 0.34%. That means on 31st January 2018, we are expecting the difference between the spot rate and the interest rate future is going to be 0.34%. So now what we actually need to do is that we need to establish that what is going to be the price of the interest rate future. Now, how would we calculate? You see, on 31st January 2018, the base rate is either going to be 5.3%. Now, when we express this 5.3% as 100 minus R, So this 100 minus R, it becomes 94.70. So the spot is going to be 94.70. Now, if the spot is going to be 94.70, if the spot is going to be 94.70, then what is actually going to happen? If the spot is 94.70, then what is actually going to happen is that we would say that the remaining basis is 0.34. Now, a very big question that arises is, are we going to add the remaining basis or are we going to deduct the remaining basis? Now, let's just try to understand. I know it's a complicated area, but we need to understand it because this one, once you get hold of it, you would always actually remember this area. Now see here, if I stand on 1st October 17, originally the interest rate future was 94.78 and the spot rate was 95.8. That means spot rate was greater than IRF. The spot rate was greater than IRF. This relationship would always prevail. This relationship would always prevail. Now what do we mean by this relationship would always prevail? We actually have got a spot rate which is 94.7. We do know that the spot rate would always be greater than IRF. So the spot rate would be greater than IRF. That means the IRF would actually be lower than the interest rate. There's a spot rate. So the IRF is actually going to be 94.7 minus 0.34. Okay, do you people get it? Okay, 0.34 is actually remaining basis. Tasnua, it's actually remaining basis. Okay, if you people get it, then I can actually move forward because this is the most complicated area of the interest rate future, which is when we actually have to estimate the price of the interest rate future prevailing on the basically borrowing or lending date. Now, I will actually explain to people again. You see this relationship. You see this relationship, which is actually the relationship on 1st October 2017. You've got an interest rate future which is 94.78. You've got a spot rate which is 95.8. So the interest rate future is lower than a spot. Interest rate future is lower than a spot. Now this relationship would always prevail. This relationship would always prevail. Now what do you mean by that? Basically, if the base rate has gone up to 5.3, we have translated it into 100 minus R as 94.7. Now this is actually spot rate. So the interest rate future is going to be lower than a spot. So if it is going to be lower than a spot, we need to deduct it. So we have deducted the 0.3 for the remaining basis. So that's what we have got the IRF as 94.36. Do you get it now? Okay, perfect. Now, that means that we have got the price of the interest rate future, which is 94, which is actually going to be 94.36. Now, similarly, what is actually going to happen is next, if the spot rate, now second scenario is if the spot rate is actually 3 point, because the base rate was expected to 3.6. So this is expressed in IRF terms. So the spot in IRF terms is actually going to be 100 minus 3.6 is going to be 96.4. If it is going to be 96.4, you have got remaining basis which is 0.34. Again, it is going to go down. So it is actually going to be 96.06. Rabiba Rafiq, we are deducting the remaining basis. I explained that the remaining basis is the difference between the spot rate and the future price. So 96.06 is going to be the price. So we have got 96.06. Now we need to determine this. You see, buy is actually its outflow from your side, and then sell is actually inflow. So we need to establish that how much is going to be the gain or loss that we are going to get. Yes, Tasnua, we always need to calculate the remaining basis. Guys, our team actually wants to, the ACCA team actually wants to know the feedback of today's session. So I would highly appreciate if you could actually give your feedback, and if you could also, because that would actually help myself improve it also, and make it align to the needs of you people. So if you could give your feedback into the messenger window, that would be excellent. But anyways, now let's come on to it. So we need to actually establish the gain or loss, and how exactly would we be actually getting the gain or loss. So you've got 94.78, which is the buy price. It's an outflow from your side. 94.36 is an in price. So you've got a loss. How much is this loss? 0.42%. And what exactly is this one? This 3.6, this the other one? We have probably got a gain. And how much is that gain? 1.28%. So 1.28% is the gain. Okay, so that means you've got a loss in one of the case and you've got a gain in one of the case. Now, how exactly are we going to convert this gain or loss in dollar terms? So we need to understand this, that how exactly are we going to convert this gain or loss in dollar terms. So let's actually talk about it. Now, how would you actually convert it? You would say 0.42% multiply by 0.42% multiply by the contract size, which is D 500,000, multiply by the number of contracts, which is 90, multiply by 3 upon 12. Now, I'm actually explaining to you people that how exactly are you going to calculate or convert this gain or loss into dollar terms. So how exactly are you going to convert it into dollar terms? You're going to convert it into dollar terms this way. This is actually your gain or loss. This is actually your gain or loss. So this is the gain or loss in percentage terms. This is actually the contract size. This is the contract size. This is actually the number of contracts. This is actually the number of contracts. This is actually the number of contracts. And this 3 upon 12 is going to be the period of the contract. This is going to be the period of the contract. So it is actually going to be the period of the contract. So that's how you're actually going to calculate the gain. Usually it is not going to be 4 upon 12. Now why? Because the contract is a 3-month contract. That means whatever the gain or loss that the exchange is going to give you is going to be for 3 months. It's not going to be for 4 months. Okay. So can you please advise that how much is this gain or loss? Negative, okay, it's 47,250. Okay, similarly in the other scenario, can we actually have a gain or loss? It's 1.28% into D 500,000 into 90 contracts into 3 upon 12. How much is it going to be? 144,000. Okay, it's 144,000. So do you people actually get it, that how do we calculate this gain or loss? Okay, perfect. Now let's move forward. So basically, we go back to where we were actually performing the original calculation, that we had originally set up the hedge, and what has actually happened is that we received an investment was received of 560 to 400, the interest received was 560 to 500, or the interest received was 371 250. Now let's actually talk about it. So we have got a loss of 47 250 and we have got a gain of 144,000. So this is actually going to tell you the net interest achieved. This is going to tell you the net interest achieved. How much is it going to be? Okay, is it 515 250 in all the cases? In both the cases? Zainab Yaqub, I think you're making a mistake. You're deducting 227. You're deducting 144,000. You don't need to deduct. You need to add it up. It's basically a gain. You need to add it up. Okay, so it is 515,250. Okay, so no, the amounts, Tasnuma, the amounts might not always match. The amounts might not match always. Yes, the nominal difference won't matter. Okay, so I think you people get it. So basically, what is going to happen? That up till now, what we have done is we have talked about the FRA, the forward rate agreement, and when we talked about the FRA, we actually determined that in the FRA, we were actually able to achieve a rate of 4.72%. That was 531,000. So we were able to achieve 531,000 when we talked about the FRA, and when we have actually talked about the interest rate future, we have been able to achieve 515,250. So basically the FRA result was 531,000. So up till now, whatever that we have studied, we have actually compared that FRA has given a better return as compared to the interest rate future. Is it okay? Okay, so I think we might actually have to keep it till here, because if I'm actually going to start doing the options, then we might not be able to conclude it. So what I am actually going to do is that I might actually extend the session tomorrow by around 10-20 minutes, so that I'm able to cover up for the for I'm able to cover up for the time that we actually miss out due to a short break, because it's already a question based revision session. So I would actually try and actually um, perform maximum questions. So anyone has any questions, so you can ask, or else we might actually go ahead with our session tomorrow then. Okay. See you tomorrow. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for your time.